Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is highly sensitive, deeply painful, and yet incredibly common. It's an issue that plagues countless long-term relationships, and it's usually suffered completely in silence behind closed doors. But today, we're going to drag it out into the light and look at the actual clinical reality. We're breaking down the hidden underlying mechanics of the dead bedroom, and more importantly, how you can actually escape it. So let's jump right in. I want you to picture a pretty familiar scenario. You're sitting there with your spouse, right? You've been married for years. You've got the successful career, the wonderful kids, basically everything society tells you that you're supposed to have. From the outside looking in, your life is fantastic. You're both totally faithful. Nobody's cheating. There are no secret addictions tearing things apart. But you're left agonizing over one very blunt question. What on earth happened to your intimacy? That vibrant, amazing physical connection you used to have is just gone. Now, it's not like you feel completely disconnected in your day-to-day life, but that raw sexual attraction vanished. You might find yourselves occasionally having sex just to say you did it, checking a box because it's just what married couples do. So how do you get that spark back? Well, to understand how to fix this, we first have to look at what is actually happening behind the scenes. Picture this common clinical reality. Two partners sitting frozen on opposite ends of a therapist's couch, fiercely arguing about the death of their sex life. One partner, often the husband in these clinical anecdotes, leans forward and his voice is just tight with frustration. He's literally tracking the data. I mean, counting the exact number of weeks since they were last intimate, and he's presenting this literal spreadsheet of absence as undeniable proof that his partner no longer loves him. Meanwhile, the other partner is frozen over on the far armrest, staring at the floor, quietly explaining that this relentless pressure and constant data tracking makes them want to literally crawl out of their own skin. It's this incredibly painful logistical debate over intimacy that just feels entirely hopeless. All right, section 1, the dead bedroom myth. Let's dismantle this. Look, if you go online right now, pop psychology blogs are going to feed you the exact same tired advice over and over. They'll tell you that to fix a dead bedroom, you just need to schedule a few more date nights, maybe light some nice candles, or just practice better communication. But here's the harsh clinical reality straight from the experts. That advice is just dead wrong. When you and your partner are fiercely arguing about your physical intimacy, when you're tracking weeks on a calendar like that, you are absolutely never actually fighting about sex. So what is actually happening in those intense moments? That brings us to section 2, the waltz of pain. Beneath all those arguments about who initiated what or when the last time was, there is a severe negative cycle taking place. Clinically, they call this the waltz of pain because what is actually sitting on that therapy couch isn't just a couple debating logistics. It's two terrified human beings who are actively drowning in a profound biological panic. This is literally an ancient survival system kicking in. No one is intentionally trying to destroy the romance here. Both partners are simply trying to survive an emotional flood, and they're using deeply ingrained childhood protective strategies that unfortunately are perfectly designed to trigger each other. Let's map out this agonizing loop because it's like a giant, painful puzzle. On one side, we have the anxious partner. In their survival system, they view physical intimacy as this ultimate vital test of the relationship bond. So when their partner turns away in bed, the brain doesn't just register, oh, they said no to sex. It detects a life-threatening emotional abandonment. To soothe that sheer terror, they pursue relentlessly, often using harsh criticism or really intense demands. Now, flip over to the other side, the avoidant partner. To the person lying right next to them, this intense policing of physical affection feels like a massive, suffocating wave of engulfment. They hear every single complaint as devastating proof that they are just an utter disappointment. Crushed by the immense weight of that inadequacy, a biological alarm goes off. Their amygdala fires, their prefrontal cortex, the logical part of their brain goes completely offline, and their physical body literally shuts down just to survive the flood of shame. Here is the absolute kicker. When you really understand the waltz of pain, you immediately see exactly why all that pop psychology advice completely fails. The more one person pushes for physical proof of love, the more the other partner's nervous system registers that demand as a major threat, and it completely turns off the physical desire. You absolutely cannot solve a shattered emotional bond by treating your spouse like a broken appliance that just needs to be flipped on. Forcing yourselves to be intimate or mandating romance when your nervous systems are essentially at war is only going to deepen the trauma. Moving on to section 3, heart-centered sexuality. To stop turning the bedroom into a biological war zone, we need a massive paradigm shift. Experts like Jim and Felicia Mateo Shepard give us a pretty hard truth to swallow here. They say waiting for those moments to be what inspires you to have sex, that's ridiculous. See, we've all been conditioned by movies to believe that sex should always be the result of spontaneous, simultaneous excitement. You walk in the door, your partner looks incredibly hot, they give you the look, and boom, inspiration strikes. But the clinical reality waiting for pure spontaneous inspiration to strike in a long-term marriage is pretty much a guaranteed recipe for a dead bedroom, because those highly synchronized, effortless moments are going to happen less and less as the years roll on. To actually achieve what they call heart-centered sexuality, there are a couple of actionable, if slightly uncomfortable, steps we have to take. Step 1, we have to completely give up the notion that some magical force is just going to take over our bodies. We have to be willing to actually work at it, plan it, and yes, schedule times to be intimate. I know, that sounds incredibly unromantic to our Hollywood trained brains, but stick with me. Step 2 is even more profound. You have to accept that the people having sex with each other have fundamentally changed. Let's look at what that change actually looks like in real life. Think back to the honeymoon phase. As the source material humorously points out, this was a meeting of highly confident avatars. It was your sexy figs persona meeting their sexy persona. It was love at first sight, full of bravado and this intense, effortless chemistry. But look at the current reality. Those confident avatars, yeah, they aren't the people getting into bed together tonight. Today, it's a highly vulnerable, self-conscious person thinking, man, am I going to be a disappointment tonight? Maybe feeling a bit like a vulnerable, snivelly, Shrek-looking character. And they're meeting a partner who is quietly agonizing, am I not as desirable as I once was? Do you not really want me? If we don't make space for these deeply vulnerable, insecure versions of ourselves to be the ones having physical intimacy, the gap between us is only going to grow wider, which brings us to our final part, section 4, the safe container. If our truly vulnerable selves need to be the ones connecting, how do we make it safe enough for them to do that? Well, we have to understand the biological crosswinds we're constantly navigating. Throughout our lives, we basically have two distinct, ongoing physiological processes running in the background. First, there's the innate need to be emotionally bonded to another person. Babies literally cannot survive without this bond. And our adult nervous systems are wired to totally freak out if we don't have someone who loves and cares for us. Second, we have a biological drive to mate and find people attractive. Now, when you first met your spouse, these two drives synced up flawlessly. You found them incredibly attractive, and you hoped they'd become your primary attachment figure. Win-win, right? But life isn't simple. As a relationship matures, these two incredibly powerful drives can fall out of sync and even seem to contradict each other entirely. The absolutely crucial objective, the only way to manage these competing drives without destroying your relationship, is creating what clinicians call the safe container. You have to take the implicit tension in the relationship and build an environment where you can explicitly talk about it safely. A safe container is an emotional space where both people deeply, truly feel two very specific things. You're really there for me, and I'm enough for you. But let's be real. We have to acknowledge just how terrifying it is to build this container because sex directly touches our most basic emotional survival needs. When the intimacy fades, these terrifying questions just start screaming in our minds. The anxious partner is wondering, are you really there for me if you don't desire me anymore? And the avoidant partner is agonizing, am I really enough for you if I don't desire you as much right now and you're so upset with me? These are agonizingly painful, deeply vulnerable questions to face. But here is the magical realization that completely flips the script on the dead bedroom. Leaning into that exact discomfort, that is the cure. Explicit vulnerability equals safe intimacy. When you finally stop debating the calendar logistics and instead sit down and actually share those painful hidden fears, when you make the implicit terror explicit, something absolutely incredible happens. Really showing up vulnerably with each other makes both partners feel so profoundly close and so deeply understood. Ironically, exposing your deepest fear of inadequacy is the exact thing that creates the perfect safe setting for people to actually relax, love each other, cuddle, and yes, eventually even get a little frisky again. So, what does this all mean? We've seen that the dead bedroom is absolutely not a lack of love, and it certainly isn't a problem you can fix by treating your partner like a broken machine. It is a biological panic masquerading as a logistical debate. The path back to genuine physical intimacy isn't found through pressure or mandatory scheduled romance. It's found through the immense courage it takes to admit your deepest insecurities to the person you love most in this world. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one critical question to think about. To save the intimacy in your relationship, are you ready to step off the battlefield and drop your heavy arm? If you want to work on this for real, try Figlet, my AI relationship coaching app. You can start for free, no credit card needed at figlet.empathy.com.